What's up, Canuck fans? Welcome to The Line Change, a Vancouver Canucks podcast, which is a presentation of DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, and we're also a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network. Be sure to check out the network for your favorite podcast covering your favorite team at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, the home of hockey podcast, every team, everywhere. Welcome to our deep dive into the Vancouver Canucks, focusing on the top 5 players that have caught the eye of other teams. This list comes to us via Elliot Friedman, and he made an appearance on Donnie and Dolly back on Tuesday. So yes, we're a little late to the dance, but he made an appearance on Donnie and Dolly, and he went over 5 Canuck players that teams are not only calling on, but want to trade for. Let's go ahead and take a look at the article. Brought to us by our friends at the Daily Hive. Selling season in Vancouver is well underway, and no, we're not talking about real estate. The Vancouver Canucks have been busy over the past 2 months, trading away their best defenseman, Quinn Hughes, along with their leading goal scorer, Kiefer Sherwood. So that begs the question, who's next? Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman joined Donnie and Dolly on Tuesday morning, where he ran through a list of Canuck players that other NHL teams are calling about. Let's start off with our first player, and he is no stranger to trade discussions as of late, none other than Elias Pettersson, the forward. So as you can see there, Elias Pettersson, his 25-26 stats, 41 games played, 13 goals, 16 assists, good enough for 29 points, which is far from what we expect from Pettersson, considering he is a $11.6 million player. But hopefully he can up his point total, but at least he's, a little over halfway to his point production that he had last season, which was, remember, 45 points. Even if Elias Pettersson decides he wants to stay in Vancouver, that isn't preventing teams from calling about the Canucks' highest paid player. Friedman was yet another reporter to mention that GM Patrick Allvin continues to get calls about the 27-year-old center, although he isn't a superstar 100-point center anymore. At least he hasn't been for a couple of years now. He still has value as a skilled two-way center, even if the production hasn't been there. Pettersson's cap hit and full no-move clause complicates any potential trade, but several teams around the NHL would benefit from having him bolster their center ice depth. Obviously, we talked about recently how Pettersson's agent, JP Barry, was not happy about the trade rumors and speculation surrounding Pettersson, and we also mentioned in another recent video that he kind of shut down the rumors in his own way, but he also at the same time did leave the door open to a potential trade. Next up, we have Tyler Myers. And now this one is an interesting candidate, as he's made it known he wishes to stay in Vancouver. He's also a client of JP Barry, and JP Barry himself, within, talking about Pettersson, did make it known that Myers wants to stay in Vancouver. He wants to retire as a Vancouver Canuck. But could he be still persuaded to go elsewhere? The jury is still out on that one. Obviously, Tyler Myers, 25-26 stats, 49 games played, 1 goal, 7 assists. So only 8 points in 49 games for Tyler Myers. Not that we really expect Myers to put up the points. The eldest Canuck player is in the second year of a 3-year, $9 million deal that he signed in the summer of 2024. Currently has a full no-move clause, which converts to a 12-team no-trade list next season. Rick Dhaliwal mentioned on Donnie and Dolly that he hasn't heard that Myers is willing to waive his no-move clause. The 34-year-old is married with 3 kids, so there's a good chance that waiving his no-move clause won't be an option. We also kind of talked about this in that same Pettersson video where his agent addressed the trade rumors, and he also spent, as I mentioned, a little bit of time talking about Tyler Myers and his no-move clause. So this one is, like I said, certainly an interesting one, and the jury is still out there whether or not Myers will actually waive his no-move clause if a team were to come calling. And it's also unsure if the Canucks would actually even entertain the offer, considering they know Myers wants to stay. We saw a little bit of, the team or the Allvin and Rutherford having respect for Sherwood, getting a deal done so he can get settled, as, obviously Sherwood is expecting the birth of his daughter, and they wanted to make sure he was as settled as he possibly can, so he's not, worrying about, his child being born and being in the middle of trade talks. Next up, our third player is one that's interesting. Some might even consider him a quote-unquote untouchable. He could also very well be the Canucks' best trade chip, and trading him would certainly get them a haul, especially with how he's played so far this season. That is none other than Filip Hronek. His 25-26 stats, 49 games played, 3 goals, 25 assists, 28 points in 49 games. While Filip Hronek's agent may not be happy with the fact that Filip Hronek's name is mentioned in trade speculation, much like JP Barry, that won't stop other NHL teams from showing interest. If Hronek were to waive his no-move clause, so there is someone else who has a no-move clause, he'd be the Canucks' best trade chip. Rasmus Andersson only netted the Calgary Flames a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a roster player, and a mid-prospect because he wouldn't sign a contract extension with any other team. Since Hronek is under contract, younger, productive, and stout defensively, surely dealing him would net the Canucks more. And I absolutely agree on that. But at the same time, I don't see the Canucks really moving Hronek, as especially with the departure of Quinn Hughes. Hronek is essentially their best defenseman, since Quinn Hughes left. And I just don't think they would be willing to maybe entertain this. But it is very interesting that teams are calling on Hronek, and that Elliot Friedman is even going out there and saying that, teams are interested. Teams are calling the Canucks about him. But like I said earlier, the jury is still out whether or not the Canucks would even consider trading Hronek despite them being in a rebuild. Hronek is also not that old either. So yeah. Now, before we dive into our final two players, I'd like to thank my main and primary sponsor, none other than DraftKings, the unofficial sports betting partner of the NHL.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Never experienced the jaw-dropping moments that make hockey? Hockey? Well, you can experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-9777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through per wager may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025, all rights reserved. I'd like to thank my secondary sponsor, none other than Gassy Jack Art, maker of this amazing artwork you see right here, and you guys can check them out yourselves at GassyJackArt.com. All right, let's dive back into our discussion here and looking at our fourth player, someone else who's been involved in trade discussions, none other than Connor Garland, especially as of late. And he, much like Hronek, could be a great trade chip for the Canucks to dangle in front of teams. He's a heart and soul guy. The Canucks absolutely love him and are actually, unsure of whether or not they want to trade him from what I've heard. They are very hesitant to pull the trigger on a Connor Garland trade because they love him so much. And so do the fans, myself included. But could you get something good and young back in exchange for someone like Garland? Maybe a first-round pick to help continue to build the Canucks' draft capital. We said that Hronek could very well be the Canucks' best, quote-unquote, trade chip. Well, that's with the asterisk of him, having trade protection. But Garland doesn't have trade protection, at least not until his new contract kicks in on July 1st, and that is when his no-move clause that is included in that contract officially kicks in, and he has protection when it comes to a trade. So Connor Garland, his 25-26 stats, 38 games played, 7 goals, 15 assists, 22 points in 38 games. According to Friedman, he has no doubt that the Canucks have received calls on Connor Garland. The scrappy, diminutive winger could be considered one of the best veterans to keep around for a rebuild, considering his unlikely rise to becoming a full-time NHLer. He's also the Canucks' best trade chip among guys with no protection, since his no-move clause doesn't kick in until July 1st. And last but certainly not least is another interesting one, and it's none other than Drew O'Connor, a name that hasn't really been involved in trade discussions, at least not that I've heard anyway. So this name is likely surprising for Canuck fans to hear, but he, much like Hronek, is having a pretty decent season up until this point. That said, Drew O'Connor, 18 points in 49 games, 11 goals, 7 assists. Perhaps lost amidst this dreadful Canucks campaign is the fact that Drew O'Connor is playing some pretty good hockey. The 27-year-old is on pace for a career-high 18 goals after scoring just 10 times in 84 games last season. He's also signed to a reasonable 2-year contract worth $2.5 million per season. O'Connor was mentioned by Friedman as a player that teams are calling the Canucks about. If he were to be dealt, it would have to be a squad that isn't on his 12-team no-trade list. So there you go. O'Connor, much like most of the players on this list, obviously with the exception of Garland, have trade protection. So it might be difficult for the Canucks to, trade these players. But as we said at the top, just because these players have no move clauses or trade protection, it doesn't mean teams aren't calling the Canucks about them. So like I said, Drew O'Connor is an interesting one. I've actually even thought of the idea of, using O'Connor as a trade chip, especially with the Canucks wanting to get younger and, the Canucks having a lot of young wingers in their, within their system. You got, Jonathan Lekaramaki, you got Niels Höglander. I know he's more like a veteran, but he's still relatively young. You got a bunch of guys on the Abbots for Canucks who are wingers who could come up to the big club. And then you have a guy like Drew O'Connor who could be maybe blocking those players due to not only, him playing very well, but just occupying a spot on the wing. If you trade Drew O'Connor, you can free up that spot and allow one of those younger players to, either take that spot or battle it out with other young wingers for that spot. So that is just one idea that, having Drew O'Connor as a trade chip, I don't think it's such a bad idea. But at the same time, O'Connor has been playing pretty darn well for the Canucks this season. But, well, there you have it. 5 Vancouver Canuck players that teams are either calling the Canucks on or that teams want to trade for. Let me know if you feel as though there should be some omissions from this list or maybe even some additions to this very list. And you guys, let me know if you feel someone should be on this list, someone should not be on this list. Like I mentioned, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And a quick shout out and thank you to my sponsors once again, DraftKings as well as Gassy Jack Art. And if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. Also, you guys can check out our merchandise store. We are currently selling our 1-year anniversary collection, something which we are rapidly approaching towards the end of February. And it has completely redesigned logos on it, obviously in blue and green, traditional Vancouver Canucks colors, as well as our skate version. And I gotta say that black hoodie with the skate logo looks absolutely crisp, as does the white one, as you can see there on your screen. Go ahead, check it out at thelinechangepodcast.threadless.com. We also have some sales going on right now, so go ahead and check it out. Also, if you want to take part in more discussions such as ones like this, join our official Discord. There is a link to it in the description down below. It's completely free to join, so go ahead and do that if you so wish to do so. You can find and interact with us on social media. We're everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, even Blue Sky. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. Speaking of platforms, if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us on either platform. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. Also, if you have a favorite episode that you absolutely couldn't get enough of, feel free to download that episode so you can watch it anytime, anywhere, any place. That also really helps out the podcast, so you can do that as well. And once again, that is greatly appreciated by us. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. And once again, as always, go Canucks go.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.